Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me time to speak today. Clearly, the message is coming across from all of us about our stories, about development of vaccines, and how can we make sure that the message gets across. So what I want to talk about here is I thought my condition and the genetic history in my family was exceptional, because I've had a number of family members I've lost to cancer. And I thought that was a bit unusual, and that's why I got involved in this program. However, I've learned that actually I'm no different to any one of you. We are all the same, because 1 in 2 of us will develop cancer. So actually, I'm normal. That's a good news. But then I think about, well, it's a good news, but I don't know anything about it. So is that a good news or bad news? I don't know. So really, what's really coming out is cancer vaccination might prevent cancer in the future and treat people who already have got cancer. The success or failure will really depend on what communities think, what individuals think about vaccine and cancer. And it's so important that we get that message out there to the communities. Because there's no point developing anything. You guys are spending so much time and energy and money in developing something. But if then we don't get that message out there to the public, we're going to be in the same old situation, same old cycle of hesitancies and not reaching out to the people that we want to reach out to. So really, those are the challenges that we all understand. And we all talk about challenges is trustworthy engagement. But then we use statements like hard to reach communities. And is it really hard to reach communities? And we have all talked about it. It's not hard to reach, it's hard to engage. And yes, but do we really know how to engage? So what I wanted to touch base on today is really what is hard to engage communities. And really, those are the messages. It's really any group of people who we think is underrepresented or excluded. And I use the word excluded because we do these things silently. We don't necessarily actively think about excluding anyone, but we don't actively think about including people into our thinking, into the development of any ideas or getting involved in any service improvement. So really, what we need to be thinking about is anything that we are doing, are we being systematically excluding those people? Are there any social and cultural issues, any structural barriers that we are creating? And we are the ones who are creating those barriers. And is there anything that we can do to overcome those barriers? Are there any groups of people who are overlooked and underserved? So it's important that we actively think about how can we allow that meaningful discussions to take place. And then I looked at sort of how did I get involved as a member of the public with healthcare professional. And I thought, well, I had to be motivated. I had to think about what was the value of me getting involved in the discussion, because we spend so much time talking to people who we don't normally engage with. What was I going to get out of that? And then I started thinking, what happened to my journey and how did I benefit? And I've come to one conclusion, that what makes community hard to engage is not getting the language right. Those literacy barriers that we always talk about. The misalignment between my thinking and someone else's thinking. We need to understand, how can we understand each other? How can I put myself into someone else's shoes and think about their challenges, everyday challenges. And then I have to think about there are still communities out there. We talk about stigma and shame. And there are communities out there, whether we like it or not, that whether it is cancer, whether it is any health condition, they think that if I speak about that condition with my neighbors, with other people in my community, I will be ostracized. I'll be isolated. No one will want to talk to me. And that's still there. And it goes down to really understanding those people. The social economic exclusion we talk about. We talked earlier in the earlier session about access. I think access is so important. Not everyone can afford to buy the medicine over the counter. Not everyone can go and get the right food or do the right exercise or be able to talk to someone so that they can help them to take the medication. There are social economic exclusions. There is institutional exclusion. If the healthcare professionals are not talking to the patients in the way that the patient can understand, there will be that exclusion. People will just give up. And then there is that mistrust that, people are only telling me to take vaccine because they really want to monitor me, or they want to save money. That if I take this vaccine, they will save money and I won't have to go into the hospital. So there is that historical mistrust. And really, unless we can address those things, we will always have that barrier between what I call the developers, the healthcare professionals, and the people that we actually want to listen to engage, and to get involved with the healthcare service improvement. So my belief is we have the facility, we have the capability, we have the resources, but do we have the will? That is the question we all need to ask. And we need to ask that actively, not just that, I'm a good person, and I know I care for you, and I care for that community, and I care for that individual. We need to be thinking about that in everything that we do. And I truly believe we can work together and we will succeed, because I think we need the three legs or three sides of the triangle working together. We need the patients to be working with the healthcare professionals and the academics and the funders, and we need that dot to remain right in the center, because if that dot moves towards any one of the sides, the forces of those sides are going to be so strong that that dot will escape from the triangle. That dot needs to remain in the center. And how do you achieve that? Every one of us, including the patients, I should not see myself as the weak link. I need to see myself as a representative of myself, my community, my family, and everyone around us. We need to be working together, the patients, the healthcare professionals, and what I call the funders, the academics, the developers. And only by working together, we will achieve success. So please, 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 let's look at how we can work together. Development is good, and we saw earlier that it may take 30 years to develop a therapy. It may take 30 years to develop that cancer cell, but we must find a way that we can reduce the time cycle, and that can only happen if we all work together. So that's my message. Thank you so much for listening to me.